This is what happens when a brand forgets who it's supposed to be. Because if this is As Ever, it looks nothing like the image she's spent the last year selling us. Meghan Markle's ads recently for As Ever aren't just incredibly unappetizing, they actively contradict her entire brand narrative thus far. And that is a much bigger problem than bad lighting or staging weird photographs. This is sending all the wrong messages. So let's take a closer look at Meghan Markle's weird vibes that she's been sending from her As Ever marketing. But before we begin, I would like to invite you to subscribe if you have not yet already. Click like, hype, and share this video, but only if you want to. So I'm not 100% sure exactly what is happening with the Meg and her As Ever nonsense, but it literally looks like she is having a midlife crisis. The marketing is so chaotic in vibe, I can't even. And while she seems to think the more she does, the more attention it'll get, the reality is that she is undermining her brand's attempt at establishing an identity of its own, which is incredibly important, especially for such a young brand. So let's first take a quick look at the absurdity of these photographs, these terrible choices. So this particular post where she was trying to promote a Valentine's Day drop is just very, very chaotic. It has little like knick-knack sort of vibe of mix-matched things. Nothing is a complete set with its own like vibe and identity. Like here we have this very simple saucer with just a plain red border. It's very simple, very clean, very tidy. But then we have this very embellished As Ever logo on that look very fussy, almost a little bit more like old-fashioned. And then we have these tacky silver trays. Nothing really is cohesive here. It looks incredibly chaotic. But then we have this horrible picture of Meghan Markle. A lot of people said she was pretending to be Audrey Hepburn. I don't think she even was trying that. I just think that she has snapped. So delusional. Okay, so this is crazy. This picture is embarrassing. Like, I would never be able to bring myself to post something like this or to even do something like this. This is nuts. She's holding a piece of paper with her terrible spindly cursive written on it, folded up as if it's a menu or a book, people are saying. It's a single piece of paper. She's wearing a horrible hat that just looks so silly. The awkwardness of holding this paper, the outfit that she's wearing, the whole thing is insane. It's like she's playing dress up. It's sad. It looks desperate. Very, very embarrassing. And it's so different from everything else she has ever made as an advert for this brand thus far. She also has this black strapless dress that she's wearing, which she previously wore for the Royal Foundation dinner in London in November 2018, and you can just see how ill-fitting it is here. You can just see how it's pulling away from her bust line. It's bulking up her midsection. It's a little bit of a stiff dress the way it lays. And here, this black and white photo, the texture change from the upper part of the dress to the sheer skirt, it doesn't flow nicely. This looks pretty rough. Here, I think we're selling berries. The chocolate is dark and matte, so it really kind of blends into the background too much here. It either needs a literal spotlight, something to showcase it, or it needs to be the center focal point, because here it just disappears into the picture, and it's supposed to be an ad for the chocolate. Plus, with its small triangular breaking pattern, it looks busy already. So having this janky edged smaller pieces looks messy and too busy. So this isn't inviting. The type of posts Meg did look a lot more like what a business would ask influencers who you send freebies to or pay to do a social media ad would do. You know what I mean? These don't look like marketing that's cohesive and professional. If she would just relinquish control of the As Ever Instagram account and all the As Ever marketing, she could still post all of these types of things to her private personal social media account, and it would be fine, because As Ever would still have its own identity and have the opportunity to look professionally put together and legit. Bottom line, it's the As Ever official Instagram account, and it looks super amateur and unprofessional, and it's certainly not doing these goods any favors. It seems that she is treating As Ever more like an influencer does when they are doing like some random sponsorships or brand deals, where each post is creating a whole new identity for just that post. And then the next one has a different type of vibe because it's a different type of product or whatever. You know, the way like influencers do, or people, you know, who create ads or take sponsorships in their videos. Each one is a little bit different because they're customizing it for that particular brand or product. That's how this feels from Meghan. Like, she's decided that she's going to take this sort of faux retro, sort of pretentious vibe this time. But previously, she was trying to do more of the like down to earth, barefoot in the grass sort of a vibe. You know what I'm saying? They are very, very different, big pivots that don't make sense for this is one brand. It should be a very consistent feeling that the brand gives from a marketing perspective especially. But before we get deeper into that, let me just acknowledge the cringe. This Harry video is the lamest nonsense I've ever seen. It is so contrived. He doesn't even stop to look at the chocolates and select one intentionally. He just immediately grabs one and seems embarrassed, like he wants this to be over as quickly as possible. He's even looks like he's blushing some, like he's super embarrassed to be participating in this. It feels forced. The whole thing is cringy and looks embarrassing. Oh, how the Principe has fallen. He's been reduced to an Instagram ad for overpriced chocolate with dead flowers on top. This can't be what he imagined for his life, and he clearly looks uncomfortable. If I were her, I wouldn't have posted this. I wouldn't ask my partner to do something and see him literally squirming in his skin and embarrassed about it, but wanting to make me happy anyway. I would never post something like that and like force him to participate in something he doesn't want to just to be nice. Like, I would not feel good about myself doing that to my partner. But the Meg is like, yes, I need this royal endorsement for these terrible chocolates. No shame. So it feels like Meghan creates a whole new identity for each and every post or each and every drop, rather than having a cohesive brand image that will create an impression and differentiate from other overpriced home goods. For example, we have seen her unsuccessfully sell the more down-to-earth image when As Ever was first beginning, and now she's pivoting to try to embrace a more luxurious sort of vibe, but she's reaching. She's trying too hard. It's not coming across properly. It's not landing. If anything, As Ever should be consistent. Sameness is exactly what's conjured up by the name, for goodness sakes. And just look at the extreme contrast we have right here in energy, vibe, feel, atmosphere. This brand is selling a feeling that is desperately trying to look chic, perhaps cheeky, or a hint of mystery because her face is so obscured. It's definitely a bit more fanciful, perhaps a little bit of elegance intertwined. It's sending Breakfast at Tiffany's efforts, something that's maybe snobbishly overpriced, but is supposed to be, like, in a good way. I'm not saying these successfully sell this image, but the aesthetic that she's trying to go for of this marketing blitz is a huge pivot from the initial As Ever marketing, which tried to curate more of like an earth mama, barefoot, carefree, accessible, homely, comforting sort of a vibe. Images that try to sell the idea that these goods are more earnest, perhaps. Like, this lady wouldn't be caught dead barefoot, and this ad wants to be California cool, while this ad wants to be sophisticated chic. They're very different brand images, and you may wonder, is this normal for seasonal collections? No, not really. A brand, especially a new one like this, needs consistency. You can add seasonal colors, props, sets, and packaging, but the overall aesthetic can still stay the same, giving a consistent, steady feel of the brand year-round. Think of clothing brands that maybe you happen to see their website or their catalog over the course of multiple seasons throughout a year. you'll still see these images as unmistakably that brand. You'll see consistent style of marketing, similar graphic design, photo shoot approach, lighting, atmosphere. It all stays consistent. This is what tells me that she's doing this all herself. Not only that these are chaotic and incongruous and she's pivoting the image without realizing it and the identity of the brand is not becoming, like it's not taking shape, but also because it's also amateur. Like these look terrible. This ad is askew. The writing isn't even centered over the ad. So none of it looks professional. It all looks just kind of like done on a whim. Even this ad with Harry looks to be not thought out and done on a whim, which is very on brand for Meghan. Let's be fair here. This is who she is. But it's more than that. We have watched the Meg constantly look and act like a completely different person depending on who is in the room or what she's doing or what she wants. And she sells new versions of herself every few months, certainly every year it seems. But you can't do that with a business. That inconsistency weakens your brand in ways that you can't see right away, but they stunt your long-term trajectories so much that it is a huge, profound mistake. And this picture is a perfect example for it. This is my least favorite photograph I've ever seen of chocolate. This demonstrates her unfortunate, out-of-touch, messy marketing so well. I have never seen chocolate look so unappealing and messy. Like, what are these layered trays and napkins doing besides ruining the picture? Absolutely nothing. They're bringing nothing to this. This looks sloppy, and it gives the impression that this is messy or gross, or both. None of it is appealing to me. The silver trays don't photograph well because they are so reflective that you're seeing every little imperfection in it, and even the embossing looks like an imperfection more than anything else. The napkins, especially the frayed one, look messy and old, but the napkins overall don't match. So she has mismatched napkins and mismatched trays. If she had done all the same napkins, it would have helped bring a little bit of cohesion to the image and tied it together better. But as per usual, the Meg, with her overthinking and her fussiness and her trying to do everything over the top or trying to do everything different, she always wants to make it different, then she's brought in at least 3 different types of napkins that have different types of texture, pattern, embellishment. Edges are different on every single one, so it just looks messy. And then the trays look messy. Ugh, this is like the worst marketing picture I've ever seen in my whole life. This is insane. This is supposed to sell her overpriced chocolates that are $62 for a pack of, 3 or 4? That's insanity. And part of why it really, really matters that Meghan is doing this sort of chaotic, I'm going to create a new identity every time I do marketing pictures vibe versus this is what As Ever is. And this is its brand identity, and we are going to stick with that. The reason why it matters is because in a brand's first year, clarity is paramount. Because that's when the public is deciding what you are and whether you're worth remembering it all, whether you're worth coming back to. Early branding creates a mental shortcut for consumers. A clear identity tells people who the brand is for, what it stands for, why it's different. And if that identity is consistent, it builds trust and recognition quickly, and it can gain momentum. But if it's muddy or contradictory the way Meghan's is, people don't lean in, they move on instead. And the first year also sets expectations. Once an audience categorizes a brand as luxury or mass, aspirational or casual, premium or sloppy, it's extremely hard to reprogram that perception later. An inconsistency early on, it doesn't look experimental, it looks unconfident. So by constantly changing the tone of the marketing and the image direction and vibe and feel of every single marketing shoot, she is not only looking like she's unconfident and hasn't quite decided what she's going to try here, so she doesn't know what she's doing, but it also brings in this sort of contrast of, oh, well, last time I saw this, it looked nasty, so I'm not even going to look at it again. How can it be aspirational if it's changed? And you're kind of undermining anybody who previously liked the vibe that you did before. You're undermining it when you change it. And then people who see a new ad and are maybe like, oh, that resonates with me more. Then when you change it again, the same thing happens. Or when they see an old ad, then they're like, wait, what happened? Is this even the same brand? But most importantly, perhaps, the algorithms, the press, and the consumers really do reward coherence altogether across the board. Clear brands that have very good identities get repeated, recommended, and defended, and unclear brands get ignored and lost in the shuffle. The first year isn't about doing everything or allowing your experiments to be a center stage. It's about showing the world quickly and unmistakably exactly what this brand is and who it is. And Meghan is just relying on, I'm the Meg, so that's enough. But she's been voted the most disliked person 4 years in a row. That is not going to give her brand any degree of longevity. That alone is not consistency. What her brand has had so far is novelty and critics' desire to give a salty review. She has not established a consistent consumer base, a consistent image, a consistent marketing campaign or ethos that resonates with consumers or can really start pushing out into the world in a steady stream exactly what this brand is in terms of its messaging. It being just Meghan is not enough. Obviously. And this reminds me of her blunder in late 2025 when she called her brand mastige. And the way she said it, she was obviously thinking it was some kind of a positive, probably because she heard in meetings the accountants saying mastige is a great thing because it justifies a huge markup. But it's not a good thing for the consumer to hear because mastige means you take products and you try to make them look and feel more luxury than they are, but they're really actually quite cheap, and you mark up the price because you're selling an image that it's better than it really is. That's what mastige is. So by saying that, she stepped in it big time. She collapsed the illusion that her brand depends on. Lifestyle brands, especially like these types that Meghan is trying to build, don't sell products first as much as they sell status or taste or discernment. Their real draw initially is about associating with somebody who you're a fan of, essentially. The pricing, the visuals, and the storytelling all rely on an unspoken promise that the products are elevated, intentional, and meaningfully different from what's already on a mass-produced shelf, and that they have a special tie to the person who makes them, or the celebrity whose brand it is. By signaling that her products are essentially mass-produced, high-margin goods dressed up as prestige, she did 3 damaging things at once. She removed the aspiration. Faux prestige tells consumers they're not buying refinement or craft, they're buying the branding. Once that's acknowledged, especially by the founder, the emotional payoff vanishes. She also exposed the value gap. Mass-tier production with premium pricing invites immediate comparison to cheaper established alternatives. Consumers start asking, why would I pay more for this? There's no good answer without craftsmanship or a heritage story. And so for Meghan, she essentially validated everybody who was saying, well, it doesn't necessarily taste better than anything you can buy at the grocery store. You might as well just buy it at the grocery store. Meghan's branding alone, this is, once again, we're circling back to the same problem. It being just Meghan and her branding as a human is not enough to justify a markup of 3 to 4 times the value of the item. She also undercut trust before loyalty had formed. When her brand was selling products for less than a year, she revealed this mastige approach. Early stage brands need people to believe in them. Admitting that the products aren't meaningfully special reframes the brand as opportunistic rather than intentional. It's especially damaging within the first year when the identity is still fragile. She also boxed the brand into a dead zone. Mass brands win on price and scale. Prestige brands win on scarcity and story. Faux prestige, like Meghan is doing, sits in the middle. Too expensive to be casual, day-to-day purchases that you keep in your pantry at all times, but too ordinary to be aspirational and coveted by people who are willing to pay luxury prices for simple home goods. The net effect overall is absolutely brutal. Once consumers see that a brand is overpriced and mass-produced but trying to sell itself as something else, no amount of aesthetic tweaking can restore the credibility there. The product may still sell short term on name recognition, but the brand stops compounding value. It stunts its growth, which is the entire point of a lifestyle label in the first place, is to continue to grow and continue to expand and be a long-term sort of a thing. This is definitely going to hinder its ability to grow and continue on. Especially once people actually get those products in their hand and they feel the cheap packaging, the crooked labels, and the taste being not so great, they're especially not going to come back. And this could actually be evidence that things aren't selling as well as they thought. I suspect their most difficult metric would be likely to be consumer retention, like keeping and getting repeat customers. But sometimes when a brand suddenly changes their marketing aesthetic, it's because they've decided that things aren't working as is, and they need to pivot to try to reach a new audience, appeal to a wider audience, or give the impression to previous clients who aren't coming back that they've made improvements or changes, and try to signal to people who have bought but didn't come back that they are worth another try, for example. So this pivot can not only show us like insecurity and lack of confidence and lack of professionalism and all these other bigger things, but it might actually also be a sign that behind the scenes things aren't selling or they're not getting repeat customers, and they thought a branding pivot and an aesthetic or image pivot was needed to sort of refresh the brand, which is a big red flag when a brand is not even a year old. It's very atypical. But leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a happy day ahead. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I will see you next time. Bye!